yeah, let's start with the first myth. So the first myth is SAP patches everything, so I'm safe. So, well, yes, it's true. SAP takes care of the infrastructure, SAP takes care of the operating system, and SAP takes care of the HANA database. So they roll out updates and patches semi-automatically. You can decide. So if you want, you can also decide, no, I don't want these updates. But if you do not click the button, I think after 7 months, you are automatically you automatically switch to the new version. So that means, yeah, that's fantastic. But in the reality, most attacks do not come through patches. They come through weak application security, misconfigured connections, unsafe development practice. So that's why I really like that the developers are also here. And also incomplete user management. I would say this is the main reason of cyber attacks and security issues is the human. So that's a problem. Of course, we have to think about that when AI comes into life and security issues will get a problem in the future, I guess. So that means we have to make sure that the apps and also the connections and configurations are safe. So maybe you wonder about the picture. So if you think about patches, then normally it's like that if you buy a nice car, okay, that's fine. But and it has nice airbags and so on. But if you drive with the eyes closed, then that won't help you. And that's the same with HANA Cloud. So if you just use it, SAP patches everything, and you do not care about the rest of your environment, then they can't help you. Okay, let's come to myth number 2. Passwords are enough. So let me say that clearly, passwords are not enough. Today, you should think about even more. So passwords are weak, passwords are often stolen, passwords are often shared between admins. So if I ask you here, I know that every one of you has a user of, I don't know, DB admin or something that he or her or she shares with her colleagues. So you should think about this topic. So normally you should integrate your HANA Cloud with your cloud identity services or your local corporate identity provider. Can be whatever, I don't know, JVT X509 certificates, something like that. And you should use MFA. Of course, HANA database does not automatically deliver MFA, but if you use, for example, cloud identity services, you can enable MFA there. So that's an option that you should consider. Yeah, and so if you decide, okay, I do not want to integrate with my local or my corporate identity provider, then you should use password store. Do not write it on paper. I know that a lot of people are still doing that. And you should use password guidelines within your password store. That's really important. So then you have some security in it. But it's even better to use identity provider or something like that. So if we come to the picture, so passwords are like toothbrushes. So everyone has one. You should change it regularly. And please do not share it with your colleagues. I think then you maybe can remember what you should do with your passwords. Let's come to myth number 3. Network traffic is already secure. So yes, secure TLS is available in HANA Cloud by default, which is great. But especially for developers, it's not enforced everywhere by default. There is this nice parameter. That's why I added the two comments here, because there you can, in the first link, you can find how to configure a CAP application and how to do it right. And in the second link, you can find information how to secure your HANA Cloud environment. So that means you can, for example, do IP whitelisting and things like that, so that your CAP application is not open to everyone. But instead, you can configure that it's only allowed for certain IP addresses or something like that. So that means in reality, maybe to give you one example, what happens in, or what I noticed, what happens really often. You have a developer, and when you start developing an CAP application, it's often getting on their nerves that they have to configure the certificates and have to deal with that and things like that. And then there's this nice parameter within CAP, SSL validate certificate false. That means you skip the validation of the certificates, and then your connection to HANA Cloud is secure by default, but it skips the certificate validation. And that means you can have a man-in-the-middle attack, for example, because your certificate is simply ignored. So that means you should make sure that your apps and your APIs that you use really use validate certificate equals true. That's really important. You should do that. Yeah, so if we look at the picture, so with network traffic, it's always like having a window open in winter. So at some point you will notice, oh, it's cold inside, but then the damage is already done. So as you see it on the picture. So that means you should do it in advance and not later on. So, and then let's come to the last myth. Roles and privileges just give everyone admin. So that one is my favorite, because I know it's annoying that you have to deal with authorizations, and especially for admins, it's really annoying that you do not use DBA admin, you use your own user and so on. And at some point in time, everyone activates DB admin and works with DB admin. That's how it works in real life. But normally that's not the solution. I know that the principle of least privilege is always hard to do when you have a very small team. But even then, you can, for example, add a different role set for these admins, create your own role set, and exclude very important authorizations like, I don't know, audit admin or something like that. So maybe you should think about what to exclude if you have a really small team. And otherwise, if you have a large team, then of course you should create your roles. You should pay attention to segregation of duties. You should also monitor and audit your user activity. That's always important. I really, really often see that companies do not use the audit logging. I really, really often see that. So that means in case of a cyber attack, you do not have any logs. So that's really a pity then. So because you cannot decide, okay, is my system safe or not? Because you do not have any logs where you can check what happened. So that's really important to activate that. Maybe that would be a good feature to activate that by default. Just for some days to Jörg. Okay, so if we look at the picture, so with roles and privileges, it's like yeah, what happens with the cake in your company if you just put it in the fridge and do not put your name on it? I think it's gone. So, and that's the same with roles and privileges. You won't know who was there and took your cake. So that's the same with your data. Yeah, that could happen, but so normally my experience is that cake is always gone after some hours. Yeah. So let's recap that. So what are the best practices you should think about? So of course you should use MFA if possible and use identity management. So your own corporate identity provider, for example. I know that's always a big project in most companies to integrate that, but it's really important. Yeah, you should enforce secure TLS everywhere. So that means you should encrypt all your connections and take care of your parameters, especially for the developers. You should least privilege roles, segregation of duties, and proper management of access. And of course, you should use continuous logging and auditing. So if you have a guide how to set up your HANA instances, or if you have an automatic routine or something like that, you should really integrate activating auditing in your HANA Cloud. And also on premise, it's the same. So I know my session is all about HANA Cloud, but that's the same for on-premise. So if you still have on-premise systems, it's the same principles. So maybe you know this picture. So when I started to think about my session, I looked at this picture and I was thinking, okay, how to secure your HANA Cloud? That's so many topics you have to deal with. So that's really, really a lot to take care of. But in practice, I could say, so just start with one of the topics. It even makes your system safer when you have authentication and user management and roles and privileges in place. So just pick one of the topics on the slides and go home and work on this topic. So that's a call to action because as I said it at the beginning, we have to care about all these topics because when AI comes into our daily lives, then we could really get in trouble. And if you have a cyber attack or something, normally attackers use, I don't know, user password that they found on the internet. They try to hack into the systems, and it's not all about patching and things like that. So it always comes together. So you should start with one topic and then work through the whole thing here because it's really important. Okay, so my advice to you, so if you change to HANA Cloud, for example, would be, SAP takes care of the heavy lifting and so patches, updates, infrastructure. But if you don't lock the doors, then it's like inviting hackers in for coffee. So that means, don't rely on this. Take the control into your own hands and go home and work on these topics. Just pick out one of the topics. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Again, please use the QR code to rate this session before we go into QA. Other questions in the room?
Thank you for the great presentation. I have a short question regarding multi-factor authentication and identity provider integration. I totally understand that for personal users, But how is that with technical users? For example, I think about a user-provided service that grants roles to an HDI container, or also technical service keys that are generated are also users and passwords. Is there a possibility also to use a certificate, or what are where the best practices?
So I think certificates would be a possibility. So MFA is no possibility, I guess. So I think there's no functionality to do that. So if I'm right, but
because CAP automatically generates if you bind an application on an HDI container.
Mm.
And where I see also a point we we blocked our other IP addresses from HANA, we restricted it. But if you are in a Cloud Foundry region, you can technically access all other HANA instances. There's no whitelisting.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's true.
And I have another question.
I think we should address that to SAP, so Jörg should write it down. Because you are the only one from SAP right now. So.
And there's another thing with single sign-on in HANA Cloud. If the HANA Cloud instances are spread to multiple sub-accounts, then I would like to have one database explorer where I can connect to all databases with single sign-on. But I feel, to our experience, it works only with a database explorer instance in the sub-account.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, right. That also comes on the wish list for Jörg.
Great. Okay, thanks. Next question.
Also, do you know if SSL is enforced on HANA Cloud? So is SSL enforced at true?
Yes, I think so. Yes, it is enforced. So I just looked it up because I checked for the parameter name SSL validate certificates, and so the documentation says it's enforced. So I have to believe that.
More questions? And okay.
I have one question. If I use cloud identity integration, is it possible to connect, for example, from Python or dbeaver or other database tools, Jupyter Notebook? Because many persons analyze data, for example, data scientists, they use a Python connection and they would like to access the data, and where single sign-on would also be a nice.
I think I'm not sure. So I think you should also be able to use certificates, but I'm not sure about that, if there's any option to do SSO. I don't know.
Okay.
I think we have to ask the experts.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, last chance for an additional question. Yes.
Chance for the wish list of Jörg. Many thanks for the session. It was very helpful. I think what's very nice is that not everybody should have DB admin role. Maybe for Jörg or for you, did you ever try to consume a data product in BDC? Which role do you need? My question. It's only DB admin.
Yeah, I heard of that. I heard of that in some. Yeah, I know that this is on the BTP pain point list of the DSAG working group BTP. So maybe you should ask Christian Braukmüller about that. I know that they were working on that because that's an issue in several applications that you cannot deactivate DB admin. Yeah. Wish list for SAP.
Okay. Yeah, strange. That was a strange Q&A. It all ended up with wish lists to the SAP, so we need to go through it. Thank you again for that wonderful session. We'll have 10 minutes break in that room and continue at 4 o'clock with Simplify HANA Central Administration using Joule for free. See you then.